I'm Bill Connerly. I'm the leader of the Castine Outreach Team, and I'm here with Nick and Keena Castelluccio with Cru Ministries and on staff with Athletes in Action at Northwestern University and Chicago area schools. Keena is the daughter of Deb Dines, and she attended Arcanum High School and Castine Church growing up, I remember. So, Nick, I believe you and Keena started your ministry with Cru, formerly Campus Crusade for Christ, directly out of college. What were your early years like with Cru?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you even bring up the early years, because from the very beginning, from 2001, Castine has been with us. And so we're so thankful for Castine and their partnership with us in ministry from the very beginning. But we started out, both of us we weren't even married at the time, and we were in the country of Azerbaijan. And we were there for 1 year. And then we were on staff with Cru at Ohio State University. And then as I was getting my seminary degree, we moved to Northwestern, and we were on staff with Cru there, and then transitioned to Athletes in Action in 2010.
Okay.
So that's our kind of our history in ministry.
What were some of your roles in those early years, either one of you?
Yeah, mostly on campus, meeting with students, sharing the gospel, discipleship, evangelism, really helping students grow in their faith, sharing the gospel with people who don't know Christ for the very first time.
Okay.
Both, when we were in Azerbaijan, that's what we were doing, but also at Ohio State, Northwestern as well.
Okay,
yeah.
Good. You served on staff with Athletes in Action Northwestern University for several years with direct contracts with students, and you now have a new role with the campus executive team. How have you been able to combine those two?
Yeah, so in 2010, we switched to Athletes in Action, and at the beginning, it was my wife and I on campus at just Northwestern University. And over time, that ministry grew to, we're now on 9 different campuses, and we have 13 staff members that work with Athletes in Action Chicago. And so just as the ministry grew over the years, it was really slow. I mean, just over the years, we would add a campus and a staff member, and another campus or two, and then a staff member. And yeah, it's just grown and grown and grown. And then my role shifted from just being on campus all the time, working with students, to also helping our staff and leading our staff that were on campuses all over the city. And then as that role grew, our organization asked me to be on the campus executive team, which now I'm helping to lead people that were in my role doing what I was doing on campuses all over Chicago. So it really does fit well, and I'm also able to be on campus a little as well.
Keena, in one of your newsletters, you were able to administer to a group of cheerleaders, and I want to read a note sent to you by one of them. And she said, Keena, I wasn't sure as how best to reach out, so apologize if this is uncommonly. I just got my first Bible and have been doing some digging, and I am hoping to live chat sometime soon. Backyard tea and good talk. I will bring the cookies. Can you tell me a little bit about this encounter?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, I'll tell you the backstory. There was a girl named Hayden who was on the cheer team, and she had come to our weekly meeting, and another staff girl and I were able to share the gospel with Hayden. But at the time, she wasn't super spiritually interested, but she would come to our weekly meetings sometimes. But and another cheerleader on the team would invite her to her cheer Bible study. And so, fast forward to this fall, Hayden and a group of other cheerleaders are renting a house that shares the same alley as our house. And I was outside and saw them and was talking with them. And then a couple days later, Hayden dropped this note off. And God has clearly been at work in Hayden's life. Hayden participates in these pageants, like these Miss America pageants. And one of the girls at the pageant was walking with God, sharing about Christ, answering Hayden's questions about spiritual things. It was actually Miss Arizona, or Miss Alaska, I'm sorry, Miss Alaska. And this girl, was just having a huge impact in Hayden's life and gave Hayden her first Bible. So now we share this alley and we run into each other. She drops this note off and we set up sometimes to talk. And over time, it became clear. And Hayden had a lot of questions about the gospel. So she was reading also C.S. Lewis's screw tape letters. She was really thinking deeply about these things, and she eventually, I've come to realize, I think she really has accepted Christ.
Good.
And so we've continued to meet and study the Bible together. We just set up our time for next Thursday. We're going through things about biblical sexuality, looking at Genesis 2, God's design. She has a ton of questions. She texts me with questions about the Bible. She wants to understand these things. She wants to understand how do we share our faith? How do we talk about God to people? She's talking with others about Christ. It's just really exciting to see God changing her life and getting a hold of her.
So your newsletters quote, last year, this is what a normal fall has looked like for us in the past, sometimes about 100 students, athletes in your backyard for a cookout. And this year, it's been gathering on Zoom. How has this pandemic affected it has affected all ministries. How has it affected yours, and how do you feel that God is working through this with you?
Yeah, it has been challenging and hard, and we've had to rethink different things on how we do things, and even with college athletics too. Like, people are nervous about getting COVID because they'll have to sit in their sport for 3 weeks, and so yeah, it has been really challenging. But yeah, there's some fun things that have happened in the midst of it. So one story is there was a guy who 2 years ago came onto the football team. And he had some kind of Christian background, but he would see the older guys that were believers on the team and say, like, I could never live like that. There's no way that I could ever do that. And he came on a spring break trip with us, not this past spring break, but the one before. And he said, this was the first time I really encountered God and had a personal relationship with God. And his life radically changed, and people on his team saw it, and they started like asking him questions about it. And so then pandemic hits, and the football coach actually they were on a call, and they said, hey, who's going to lead a AIA Bible study? And this guy stepped up and said, I'll do it. So he got to lead a Bible study with his teammates in the spring. That he was saying that guys that you never would have thought were showing up, and I think it has a lot to do with what's going on
in the world today.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us today, or say to the people of Castine?
Yeah, I'd just like to, like I started, just say thanks so much to Castine, because you guys have been with us from the very beginning, and every story that we share, every name that we mentioned, you guys are partnering with us, and we couldn't do what we do apart from people in churches like you guys standing behind us. And so, yeah, we're so thankful. And the other thing I'll say is, we really feel like this is something that really impacts the world for Christ. Somebody like Hayden, what's her major? She wants to be a
lawyer and be a politician.
Yeah.
And we have seen that happen. We've seen people go from Northwestern or other schools in Chicago and just do amazing things in the NFL, working for Apple, people that have went into full-time ministry and are in closed countries right now. And it's like, man, I couldn't have imagined that we would have this kind of impact. But again, we couldn't do it. Like, this is your impact too, because this is how Castine's standing behind us.
And I wanted to say thank you too, because I feel like Castine had an impact in my life as a child growing up. That I would say you as a body of Christ were significant in my life and invested in me, and we're grateful, like Nick said, for your continued impact or partnership with us, and that we get to do this together. We really see it as a partnership in the gospel together, that the gospel goes forward as we do this together.
Well, we'll let the people know that if they want more information about your ministry, they can get your card off of the outreach wall, which has how to contact you or how to support you prayerfully or financially. Or they can contact any of us on the outreach team. We thank you again for what you do in your service to God, and we really appreciate everything you do.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.